Welcome to Fat Fighters. Have you got any new members? New members? What? Come on, do it again. Come on, do it again. Do it again. Oh. Welcome to Learn Hungarian. Have you got any new members? New members? New members? A time and place. Oh, there's some writing there. Never mind. Alright, so let's continue with the series which aims to teach you Hungarian somehow at some point. Right, so today we are going to do two things. Oh, well, actually three, but, well, like 2.5. The first part will consist of A and B. A, referring to a time, for some reason, and B will refer to some places, well, at least placement words, for fun. Now, the second part will be the greatest and most interesting conversation in the history of conversations of the history. Let's check it out. Before we go on and learn more stuff, you won't understand a thing, but at least you will hear the pronunciation in a very exciting manner. Here we go. Van egy valahol. Hol? Nem tudom. Mikor? Kit érdekel? Akkor micsoda? Hát, vagy valami, vagy megy valahová. Értem. Tényleg? Nem. Ooh, exciting, isn't it? Well, at least those are some words that we are going to analyze. You know, the biggest thing ever in the history of this series. But before that, just to stall a little bit, let's talk about time and place. Well, time at first. Now, time meaning that something, some expression that in a sentence could mean time, when that thing happens, or I want it to happen. Let me explain. Okay, now let's see. This is the first line, and then these things are divided by these green whatevers, so these are many things. Now let's see. The logic is kind of nice. This is past, this is present, this is future. So in this case, present would be ma, today, and past would be tegnap, yesterday, holnap, tomorrow. Logical, isn't it? Now, let's do some mathematical kind of thing. Now, these are expressions that we can make with two words. Héten means week, and hónapban means month. But did you notice the attachments? I mean, we need these attachments in order to create this very complicated time. For instance, the present would be ezen a héten. And you can't even say ezen a hónapban. That's a bit different. But, well, let's see what the difference is. But the difference would be because this is sort of on and or on. So it's on this week, we think. And this one is in a month, so that's actually like a box that you put things in. This is a pointer for on this thing, and the pointer for in that thing would be ebben. Now, of course, I could make your job easier to actually create or write everything down, but I don't want to. I want you to understand how we make these things that's more interesting than to actually just learn pure, simple words. Now, okay, so we discussed this, the difference between this one and that one. So now we go with the present, ezen a héten, or ebben a hónapban, which is kind of cool. And then we go on with the múlt héten, múlt hónapban, which is last week, last month, and next week, next month, jövő héten, jövő hónapban. And that's kind of cool, isn't it? I mean, if you really think about it, just for a second, Hungarian is a language to create things, to create words and expressions. So now these words and these expressions must be created somehow. And of course, there are familiar things here. For instance, the a, which is the definite article, and then an and bon. Now the only question would be, and shall always be, that why on earth would we differentiate between hét, meaning week, and month, meaning or hónap, meaning month, because they are kind of long periods of time, aren't they? So the question is that why would we do that? And the answer is, well, look, tradition, dude. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, but it's fun. Now, let's go on with the other stuff, because they are way more easier. Or way easier, yeah, that's. So let's see, in the case of years, that's idén, meaning this year, tavaly, meaning last year, and jövőre, meaning next year. Now, this is interesting because that is actually an attachment. But the truth is that they are way more, well, look, just unique than that. So this is based on pure coincidence. If you see an attachment here, there could be an attachment, or maybe not. And that's the craziest part in Hungarian. So, yeah, well, let's move on and then we can discuss that later. So, next one is délelőtt, délután, este. Now we are breaking up with tradition. This one is morning, this one is afternoon, and this one is evening. Délelőtt, délután, este. Now, of course, I'm making this thing in the afternoon, so there you go. This is interesting. Well, to me at least, because these are compound words. Because why not? This one is not, but these two are. Dél, meaning noon. Előtt, meaning before. Után, meaning after. Yay! So, there is something there. For fun. And the last thing we learn for fun are the days of the week. And the days of the week are the following. Probably you will figure it out. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There you go. It's not very complicated. Now the pronunciation. Hétfő, kedd, szerda, csütörtök, péntek, szombat, vasárnap. And I was very nice to you, have you noticed? Because I put these attachments there already with a different color. I mean, this is just pure awesomeness, and I like you, so I'm nice to you. So these are attachments, again, just on that day. Finally, something similar to English. And but at some places, for instance, in the case of szerda, there is no on or an, or in the case of hétfő, no on ön. It's already there, sort of, kind of, whatever. So when you are using it in a sentence, just like these ones before, you have to use the whole thing. Hétfőn, kedden, szerdán, csütörtökön, pénteken, szombaton, and vasárnap. Ah, isn't that fun? No attachment, none whatsoever, because that's how we roll. Or rule, or whatever. So there. That was a chaotic discussion about these things. You have to remember, that is very important. There is a difference between the word itself and using it in a sentence. Because much like in English, we make an expression for a sentence. And by that I mean, I can't say things like, I go cinema Friday. Because that's just plain wrong. I say I go to the cinema on Friday. So much like in English, in Hungarian, you have to use these things. Now, lots of these are actually irregular ones, unique ones, that you use in a sentence or alone, and it's the same. And you might have guessed it already, that actually I used the black marker thing to differentiate between the expression and the word itself. And there aren't, or there isn't a huge amount of, well, actually black here. So that's kind of cool, I believe. So, in a second, or two, or three, or four, or five, or six, anyway, we are going to make some sentences using these things. And before that, I insist on talking about some of the placement words. Again, the rule will be the same. There is a difference between the black marker and the blue one. So here we are. A bunch of words discussing a placement of an object. For instance, alatt means below or under. Fölött means above or over. Mögött means behind. Előtt, in front of. Yes, that whole expression. Mellett, next to or beside. And finally, felett is exactly the same as fölött, just with two different vowels, because that is fun. So again, just the pronunciation. Alatt, fölött, mögött, előtt, mellett. And with fölött, you can also pronounce it felett, because that's fun. I prefer this one. So, what are these? Well, these ones are kind of easy when you think about it. When this expression stands alone, you use the a or a version. So alatta, always alone. Fölötte, above something, but always alone. There is no other expression with it. But Chris, what other expression do you mean? You might ask in a crying voice. And I would answer heartlessly, cool and calculating, that it's actually the place where it is. Now, when we make an expression with fölött, means above, in English, if it stands alone, that doesn't make much sense, does it? I mean, usually something is above something, and that would make the expression, to reach its goal, to reach its destiny, telling us how or when or how or where that thing is. But there is a big difference between English and Hungarian. In English, the order is something above another thing. But in Hungarian, those words are always behind the where. It's always something, another thing above, if that makes any sense to you. But let me give you an example. I will give you the example here, right here at this very point, or whatever. And I'm gonna use felett. So, az autó, the car, as our subject, a has woohoo! There we go! This is a whole sentence, isn't it cool? So, az autó ház fölött van. Now, this is the place, and we put this here instead of here in English, and I dare not to draw an arrow here, so it wouldn't be confusing, or you wouldn't get the wrong idea. So this one would be here in English, in above the house, but in Hungarian it's always here. Now, this is one expression. This is also another expression. And this one is too. There you go. So what's up with this? I mean, this is obviously house, this is obviously a car, and this means above. So this expression means above the house, so the car is above the house. And what does this thing do here? Heresy, I tell you, heresy. 1. The word for existence. Why? You would ask me with an over-dramatic voice. And I will tell you why. Because I'm evil like that. The trick is that we put these things, the word for existence, there to simulate there is, there are, or stuff like that. So when you're placing things, you should use the one. Actually, I might even say that when you see a placement word, then you could very well think of the word for existence, one, in there. Because you are going to need it. So, imagine that there is a picture, a beautiful picture on the internet. And then we will try to write things about this picture, telling you all kinds of things like, oh yeah, there is a tree next to the house and the car is under the roof and all that stuff. Well, now that's something. That's an awesome whatever. So, why don't we try that actually? I mean, what would hold us back creating sentences with these about a picture? I mean, who would say that we shouldn't do it? Also, I'm making the video. I'm telling you or showing you whatever I want to. So, there you go. Let's do it and whatever. Alright, so let's see what fascinating sentences we can make up about this house here in the picture in the picture. Well, yeah, look now. So, let's state some obvious things. For instance, this is a house. This is a fairly easy sentence consisting of this and a house. And obviously we need the indefinite article. So it reads as egy ház. But we are not here to talk about the house itself. We are here to talk about things that surround the house. For instance, this is grass, which in Hungarian would be fű. So, for instance, we can say that the grass is in front of the house. So, a fű, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, but now I corrected it. A fű, and remember, you have to put the house first, and then the actual word that tells you that in front of the house. And of course, van, because one is essential to our cause actually. So we need to talk about the existence of the house. Now, alright, so let's just go on and state more obvious things. For instance, these trees, 2 trees actually, well maybe 3, but I don't care about this one, this is a traitor. These 2 trees are behind the house. You could argue that they are next to the house, but I don't care about your argument. So, let's see. First of all, they are trees in particular, definitely with an A. And then of course we need the number 2 or kettő in Hungarian. But let's just go with the 2. A kettő fa. And then of course, like here, we need the house and we need something that tells us that behind the house. A ház mögött van. Now, why did I write van? When we are talking about, obviously, talking about 2 trees. And just hold your anger for a second, because you have to remember, in Hungarian, once you tell how many something is, once you tell us the quantity of something, nothing is plural anymore. So in this case, fa instead of fák with a K as the plural, and van because we are talking about just fa. Isn't it interesting and highly fascinating? Alright, now how about we do something else? Let's say that these are bushes, and bushes, let's not count them this time. The bushes are bokor, but we have to address this thing. Bokor in as a singular, and bokrok as plural. Now look at the fantastically awesome thing Hungarian did here. Instead of putting another connecting vowel an O, obviously. It just reversed or you know, mixed these two together, and then now we have a connecting vowel and a not very impossible pronunciation, k. Bokrok, for fun. So here we go. Let's say something about them. Vannak bokrok a ház előtt. Obviously, something happened here. And I'm not referring to this one, because this is obviously plural, because we are talking about more bushes. But here we wrote the following order, like this is the subject, and this is the place, and this is the action itself, let's say. And here it's completely reversed. It's a complete opposite. What's going on? Well, remember, Hungarian puts the word order as it wants to do. So we always have to make a top list of things. So for instance, here, to simulate that there are expression in Hungarian, we have to put it in the first place and then go on with the others. How about this one? It's the same exact sentence, but we put the house in first because for some reason I felt that it is more important. Is it? I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. This was just an example. So, that's it about examples, I believe. We could go on and on and on and on. There is only one thing I want to talk about here. This is a classic Hungarian house of a farmer. Well, maybe it's not the best shape ever, but this is a very old house, probably like 100 years old or something. And basically behind probably there is a farm, a big piece of land, but not as in Brazil in the US, for instance, because Hungary is very small and we don't have many opportunities to to get hundreds of square kilometers or square miles of land. It's just a couple of acres at best. So here we go. This is it. Now let's move on. Oh my God, wasn't that fun? Wasn't it the most incredible thing you have ever done in your whole life? Oh well, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, I don't know. I'm just trying to be nice and enthusiastic. Well, okay, let's move on. I promised you that we talk about that thing, and that is a horrible abomination of a conversation of whatever. So, let's do what we have to do and indulge in that horridness. Alright, so let's see, because this is so interesting. Now, let's discuss some words. For instance, this one means somewhere. Now, if you want to take notes of words, I'm not gonna do that for you, because, well, let's face it, I don't want to. But I'm gonna tell you this means somewhere, valahol. This one is a common filling word. Izé doesn't mean anything. Maybe the closest translation would be something. Yeah, something or whatever, or stuff or thing. This one you're familiar with for some reason, and that is the that is something indefinite. So there is a something somewhere. Exactly. Yeah, that's what this sentence is about. It's the meaning of life, the very meaning. It explains the fabric of the whole universe. There is something somewhere. And then, obviously, there comes the question. Hol? Where? It's not even a full sentence. I didn't even bother with the whole thing. Of course, you have to remember, this is how a live conversation goes. I mean, we could make beautiful, gorgeous sentences, and yet we just sometimes say, huh, or whatever. Yeah, well, that's life. Get over it. So, hol means where. The obvious question to there is something somewhere. Maybe it could be what, but, well, we just don't bother. He's an idiot, and he doesn't care. So, nem tudom. Nem can be recognized, and tudom, that is something definite. That's awesome. And I don't know something referring to this whole whatever, this conversation, this thing, that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. I don't know nothing. And then after that, it's mikor. A common question, not very logical here, because it says when. And, well, you know, I mean, it could be, I mean, next year, or tomorrow, or next month, but, well, I don't know. I don't really care. And actually, the sentence there, after this, right after this unbelievably insightful question, is another question. And érdekel is about interested in something. And even though English tries to do this whole passive thing there, in Hungarian, this is a very active thing. I'm very actively don't care about stuff, for instance. But in this case, the question is who? Who would be interested? And then there is another question, because, well, you know, I mean, we can't have enough questions here. And, you know, once you get into asking questions, it's just one question after another. I mean, question, not question. Whatever. So, this one is very similar to that one. Well, not in meaning, but in using. We use this just to say then. Well, then, I went to the cinema, or something. So this would be THEN, not the comparative version, THAN. So, then, what? Now, of course, we could say me, but that's too short. I mean, this is the full thing. This is the deal with all the extras. We spared nothing here. We used the full word with all the decorations it can be used with. So then what? And then another filling word. Well, this one is or, but in English these two would be used either or. But English is very complicated compared to Hungarian, isn't it? This is so simple. I mean, you can understand everything here. This is the easiest thing in the history of easy things, and it's even easier with the two vagy. So either this means something. This is an M, even though you don't see it. Megy valahová. Now, valahová is very similar to this one. And this one means in somewhere or on somewhere. And this one is to somewhere. There is a difference here in the ending. So this whole thing, pronounced as hát, vagy valami, vagy megy valahová actually means well, it's either something or it goes somewhere. Very, very wise. And then, an even wiser thing here. It says am, so that's me. It's I do this. I understand. Értem. Can you see the brilliance here? Can you grasp the meaning of everything? And then it is a skeptical question because some people are born as a scientist in head. Really? Tényleg? And then the obvious but very depressing answer. Nem. Meaning no. Wow. Just sit here for a while and let it sink in. The brilliance and the beauty of the whole universe. Oh my God. This is brilliant. Suddenly I understand everything. Everything. Don't you? Of course not. This is just a silly conversation. But I think I fooled you at some point with the brilliance and everything. But look, calm down. Just sit, breathe normally. This is just a silly conversation full of silly words, and you don't have to take it seriously. Although it does represent the meaning of being Hungarian, meaning whatever you have to say, I don't care. Just say it. I will deal with it later. So, let me, just for fun, read it with you again, just pronounce it and whatever. So here we go. Van egy izé valahol. Hol? Nem tudom. Mikor? Kit érdekel? Akkor micsoda? Hát, vagy valami, vagy megy valahová. Értem. Tényleg? Nem. Yes, indeed. And again, in English, just to hear everything, there is a something somewhere. Where? I don't know. When? Who cares? Or who would be interested? Then what? Well, it's either something or it goes somewhere. I see, or I understand. Really? No. I'm back. Because even though we were indulging and enjoying the wholeness of this whole thing, we do have something to talk about. One last thing. It's like when in a bad or somewhat good action film, the villain comes back suddenly with a last blow of whatever. Blow, not weed, but, like trying to kill everybody. So these ones Very interesting. Innen and túl. Innen means this side of the thing, and that means beyond that thing. So, one more thing with the expression we use, it's on something, on and on. So, when we try to say beyond the border, for instance, you know that határ is the border. That's what border means in Hungarian. And you have to put the on there, or an or un, but this is a back vowel word, so on it is. And then you choose one, inside the borders or beyond the borders, and I want to say túl. So, when we am talking about you, the person who actually watches these things I'm making, you are that person, probably if you're not Hungarian or living in Hungary at this time. Határon túl, beyond the border, beyond the borders of our fine country and everything. Yes.